Since we have a Pan Am pilot here, I thought I'd go on to, no, I'm sorry, I was going to go on to the disabled pilot, which is example number 4. I do have one for the Pan Am pilot. I'll let you read it later. And I think I was pretty politically correct on this, that the RDs don't understand how little the Pan Am pilots made as a result of being so junior. But example number 4 is a pilot who suffered a heart attack ending his flying career at age 53 in 1989. He remained on the seniority list in a disabled status for 7 years and retired at age 60 in 1996 with over 25 years of credited Delta service. It goes through the figures, and I made a mistake on calculating his variable increases in his disability benefit. But if his FAE in 1989 was $140,000, his disability benefit would have started out at $70,000. $35,000 would have been fixed, $35,000 would have been variable. These are annual figures. And by today, if he died in 2008, that figure would have been up, his total LTD benefit would have gone up to $119,000, not the $90,000 that's here. So for the disabled pilots, they have to look at the calculation the same way that the normally retired pilots do. And then they also go back and they look at 1/2 of the disability benefit that was being paid the day prior to their deceasing. And they get the greater of the two. In this case, the greater of the two is the disability. And that, for the disabled pilots out there that are concerned about this, that LTD benefit that is used, that you take 50% on, is based upon before they do the offset, the reduction for Delta retirement benefits. LTD pilots understand that. Okay, let's go on to changes that occurred in bankruptcy. Well, one of the major changes that occurred in bankruptcy is, well, first of all, in bankruptcy you had Section 1113 procedures, which dealt with collectively bargained agreements. And then you had Section 1114, which deals with retiree benefits, what we call welfare benefits, which are predominantly health, but they actually, in our case, the disability and survivor benefits fall into welfare benefits. ALPA, under Section 1113, negotiated LOA 51, Letter of Agreement 51, and they did a number of things in that negotiation. It appeared, first of all, that Delta and ALPA were about $60 million apart if you followed the case. They couldn't come to an agreement of how much the pilots were going to have to cut their pay to move forward. And finally, in the end, the $60 million appears to have come out of the DNS plan, because LOA 51 authorized Delta to spend $60 million a year, beginning in $60 million in 2006 and $60 million every year thereafter, out of the DNS trust, the Pilots Disability and Survivorship Trust, to pay pilot sick leave and pilot vacation pay and other expenditures not normally allowed under the DNS plan. And so that's how they resolved this gap between the two. There were a number of other changes, some that helped justify it. ALPA said, well, after January 2008, for pilots who retire after January 2008, there will no longer be a survivor benefit. We're replacing that with life insurance that will be somewhere, right now it's about $500,000, it may go up to $1 million until a pilot retires, and then when they retire it drops to $250,000 and then scales down to $10,000 thereafter. The unloading of those future liabilities purportedly justified taking the money up front. One concern I have is that one of the ALPA officials wrote to the active pilots who were concerned about this that the insurance benefit was actually a superior benefit in many ways, because first of all it was non-taxable, and secondly it didn't depend on the health of the DNS plan, which was a red flag for me. If you're going to start worrying about the health of the DNS plan, it means some of the negotiators must be concerned. The third thing it did is it modified future disability benefits to create some additional offsets and to end at the mandatory retirement age, FAA mandatory retirement age. Currently, or prior to that time, the setup was that if you disabled at the time you retired, your retirement benefits would be deducted from your disability benefits. So this simply cuts them off at that time. However, in its place, disabled pilots will get 22% of their disability pay put into a retirement account until they reach the mandatory retirement age. And we really have yet to determine where that money's coming from. Hopefully it's coming out of Delta's pocket and not out of the DNS plan. The good news was the disability and survivorship plan base was limited, permanently restricted to only be pilots or pilots who had been on the Delta pilot seniority list. Now, I don't know what the impact of that is going forward with 4,000 potential Northwest pilots being added, but I would think that if they're on the Delta list, that they'll be eligible for benefits under this plan, but we don't know that yet. There was a funding mechanism that was defined that says, well, okay, because Delta's spending $60 million a year, and the burn rate on the plan has been somewhere around $90 million a year, paying the existing benefits. So that was increased by another $60 million. If the assets of the plan drop below $1.2 billion, then starting in 2011, Delta will put up to $60 million back into the plan. They'll put either the smaller of $60 million or 4% of free cash flow. And yet they'll continue to take out the additional $60 million every year thereafter. So the best case is starting in 2011, $60 million comes out and $60 million goes back in. The source of funding was changed because prior to LOA 51, Delta, the DNS trust was essentially the sole source of funding. So basically, if the DNS trust runs dry, Delta is now a source of funding the benefits, which sounds like great news, and it would be great news if Delta did not reserve the right to terminate or modify the plan, which they still carefully guard.